Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. The hustle and bustle of New York is always full of possibilities, where dreams and realities intertwine and opportunities and challenges coexist. Just like this exhibition called Mirror, Flower, and Water Moon. Under the seemingly calm surface, there are hidden rough waves, signaling the coming of a storm. This exhibition of paintings at Jake's Gallery attracted many art lovers and critics. Inside the exhibition hall, the lighting is soft, and the walls are covered with paintings of different styles, among which a piece titled Lost is particularly eye-catching. This painting, by a female painter named Emily, shows a woman wandering alone in a misty forest, her eyes full of confusion and uneasiness, as if searching for something, but also as if running away from something. The painting not only catches the eye of the visitor, but also foreshadows Emily's upcoming difficulties in life. Our main character, Mark, an architect who is well known in New York, was also present at the show. Dressed in a dark suit and elegant demeanor, he moved through the crowd and laughed with his friends. His handsome face always wore a faint smile, giving off a sense of calmness and confidence. Mark's wife, Emily, is the author of this Lost painting. The two have been married for 7 years and have always represented a model couple to their friends. They live in an exquisite apartment building on Manhattan's Upper East Side and lead an enviable middle-class lifestyle. Mark's career has flourished and his award-winning architectural work is highly regarded in the industry. Emily, on the other hand, is a talented painter whose imaginative and infectious work has yet to make it big in the art world, but has a loyal following. To their friends, Mark and Emily were a perfect match, loving and supporting each other as they pursued their dreams. However, the apparent calm often hides undercurrents. As the picture, Lost, suggests, Emily is experiencing an unprecedented crisis in her heart. Emily sits in her studio, staring at the blank canvas in front of her with a frown on her face. The sunlight from the window poured over her, but it couldn't dispel the gloom in her mind. It had been a long time since she had created something that satisfied her, and it was as if the inspiration had left her, leaving only an endless emptiness and anxiety. How did this happen? Emily muttered to herself, a hint of annoyance in her voice. Where did I go wrong? She picked up her brush and tried to put a few strokes on the canvas, but then put it down in dismay. Her mind went blank and she couldn't draw anything. Depressed and frustrated, Emily began to doubt her own talent and even wondered if she had chosen the right path in art. At the same time, she was growing weary of married life. As much as Mark loves her, he spends most of his time at work and pays less and less attention to her and her company. Emily longs for more love and passion, but Mark never seems to understand her needs. Maybe I need more than that, Emily muttered, a hint of confusion showing in her eyes. Just then, a knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Come in, Emily said. The door opens and Jake walks in with a smile on his face. He's the owner of the gallery and a friend of Emily's. Jake is tall, stylishly dressed, and exudes a unique charisma in his demeanor. He was not only an astute businessman, but also an art lover who admired Emily's work. Emily, what are you working on? Jake asked with a smile, his eyes scanning the drawing room. Nothing, just geeking out. Emily forced a smile. What's wrong? It looks like you're not in a good mood. Jake asked with concern. Nothing much, just been hitting some creative bottlenecks lately. Emily sighed. Don't worry, everyone hits a bottleneck. Jake reassured. Maybe you need some new inspiration or a change of scenery to relax. Maybe, Emily said thoughtfully. By the way, Jake suddenly remembered something. There's an art salon at Hampton's next week. Lots of artists will be there. Do you want to come along? Hampton's? Emily hesitated a little. But Mark, don't think about it so much, Jake interrupted. Think of it as a vacation to relax. Besides, it's a great opportunity to meet some new people and expand your network. Emily had a heartbeat. She really needed some fresh air and excitement. So she nodded and said yes to Jake's invitation. Over the next few days, Emily began attending art events more frequently, and her contact with Jake grew. Jake was always so funny and always made Emily laugh. In his company, Emily felt relaxed and happy in a way she hadn't in a long time. She begins to lie to Mark, hiding her involvement with Jake and making up all sorts of reasons to explain her late nights. And Mark, despite his busy schedule, was beginning to notice some changes in Emily. She started going out a lot and became a little cold to him. Whenever he tried to communicate with her, Emily always seemed distracted or made excuses to avoid him. "Emily, is there something on your mind lately?" Mark couldn't help but ask one night. "No, what can I have on my mind?" Emily replied perfunctorily, her eyes a little averted. "But you've been coming home late lately, and you seem preoccupied." Mark pressed on. "When I say it's fine, I mean it's fine," Emily said with some impatience. "Can you stop being paranoid?" With that, she turned and walked into the bedroom, leaving Mark standing alone in the living room with a mixture of doubt and unease. Mark isn't a skeptical person, but he trusts his instincts. Disturbed by Emily's erratic behavior, he decides to get to the bottom of things. Mark recalls that when he and Emily were still close, he knew the unlock code to Emily's cell phone. The next day, while Emily was in the shower, Mark picked up her cell phone. He took a deep breath and entered the unlock code. The phone's screen lit up and Mark quickly skimmed through Emily's text and call logs. Suddenly, his eyes rested on a text message from Jake. "Honey, see you tonight at the usual place." Mark's heart skipped a beat as he clicked on the text message's dialog box, which was filled with flirty conversations between Jake and Emily, and even some pictures of them on a date. Looking at the harsh words and photos, Mark felt dizzy, as if he had been hit in the head. He couldn't believe that his beloved wife would betray him. "No, this can't be," Mark muttered, his voice shaking. He wanted to throw his phone away, but he forced himself to endure the pain and continued to look through their chats. The more he looked, the more alarmed and desperate he became. As it turns out, Emily and Jake had been in a relationship for months, attending events together, traveling together, and even spending the night together. Mark feels like his world is falling apart, and he can't accept the harsh truth. He gripped the phone tightly, his knuckles white from the effort. He felt a wave of nausea and dizziness and could barely stand. Just then, the bathroom door opened and Emily stepped out, wrapped in a towel. Emily's heart sank hard at the sight of Mark holding her cell phone in his hand and grimacing. "Mark, you?" Emily asked in horror, her voice quivering. Mark looks up at Emily with pain and anger in his eyes. Without a word, he threw his cell phone at Emily. Emily took the phone and instantly turned pale when she saw the chats displayed on the screen. She knew that it was all over. "Mark, let me explain," Emily cried, trying to defend herself. "Explain?" Mark gave a laugh. "What else do you think there is to explain? Aren't these photos clear enough?" "I..." Emily was speechless. She didn't know how to explain or how to face Mark. "Emily, I really didn't think you would do something like this," Mark said in disappointment. "I always thought we were the ones who trusted each other the most. But you? Instead, you're fooling around with another man behind my back." "Mark, I didn't mean it. I just got confused," Emily sobbed and pleaded. "A moment of confusion?" Mark's voice rose an octave. "Your momentary confusion destroyed our marriage, destroyed our trust. Do you realize that?" I know I was wrong. Please forgive me, Mark." Emily cried as she fell to her knees and hugged Mark's leg. Mark looked at Emily, who was crying in pain, and had mixed feelings. He had once loved this woman so deeply, but now she struck him as so strange and disgusting. "Emily, let's get a divorce," Mark said bitterly. "I can't forgive you and I can't live with you anymore." "No, Mark, don't," Emily cried out in horror. "I can't live without you. I'm begging you. Give me another chance, okay?" "Opportunities?" Mark let out a bitter laugh. "You've wasted too many chances, Emily. It was over between us from the moment you betrayed me." With that, Mark turned and walked out of the bedroom, leaving Emily sitting on the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. She knew she had done wrong, but she had lost her chance to undo it all. And at this moment, Mark, although he seems calm on the surface, his heart has long been in waves. He couldn't believe that he had been betrayed by the person he loved the most. He felt bitter, angry, and confused. But he knew that he couldn't just be beaten down. He had to pull himself together. He began to think of a plan to make those who betrayed him pay. The shadow of divorce hangs over Mark's life, and his once cozy home is now cold and empty. Emily has moved out, leaving behind only a few paintings and personal belongings she couldn't take with her. Mark walks alone in a house that was once filled with laughter, where Emily's scent lingers in every corner and every object holds memories of their time together. He felt an unprecedented loneliness and loss, as if the whole world had lost its color. A few days later, Mark received a call from Emily. On the other end of the phone, Emily's voice choked up. She told Mark that she had entrusted all matters related to the divorce to an attorney named Natalie to deal with all the matters, and told Mark the specific contact information, hoping that Mark could communicate directly with her attorney. Mark, I'm sorry. I know it's too late to say anything, but I still want you to know that I'm really sorry. Emily's voice broke with remorse. Mark was silent for a few moments, then said coldly, Emily, what's the point of talking about this when it's so late? I've hired my attorney, Robert, and for anything regarding the divorce, you just have your attorney contact him directly. Mark. Emily was about to say something else, but Mark had already hung up. He doesn't want to hear any more of Emily's explanations, and he doesn't want anything more to do with her. For him, the marriage was over for good, and all he wanted now was to get rid of the painful memories and start a new life as soon as possible. For the next few days, Mark threw himself completely into his work. He leaves early in the morning and returns late at night, devoting all his time and energy to his construction projects. He tries to numb himself by being busy so that he doesn't have time to think about the painful things. However, Mark can't help but think of Emily in the quiet of the night, remembering all the things they've done together. He remembered the first time they had met, the happy times they had spent traveling together, and the beautiful visions they had had of the future. Why? Why did it come to this? Mark closed his eyes in pain, tears welling up in his eyes. He couldn't understand why Emily had betrayed him, why their once so wonderful relationship had come to this. In pain and struggle, Mark had a difficult time. He began to reflect on the failure of the marriage and wondered if there were things he had not done well enough in the relationship as well. He realizes that he was too focused on his career and neglected Emily's emotional needs. He begins to understand Emily's confusion and loneliness, but he still can't forgive her for her betrayal. At the same time, Mark began to find out about Emily's current situation through various channels. He learns that Emily has moved to a modest studio and is living alone. Her artistry came to a standstill and her life became strained. She tries to reach out to Jake for help and support, but Jake grows colder and colder towards her. Mark knew it was part of his revenge plan. He's going to make Emily and Jake pay for their behavior, and he's going to make them taste the bitter consequences of their betrayal. One night, Mark asked his friend Robert to meet him at a bar. Robert was not only a good friend to Mark, but also an accomplished attorney. Robert, thank you for helping me with my divorce during this time, Mark said to Robert as he lifted his glass of wine. Mark, we are friends. These are what I should do. Robert said, but I see you haven't been in the best shape lately. Are you really okay? I'm fine, it's just, Mark said with a desire to speak. Just still upset about Emily? Robert asked. Mark was silent for a moment, then nodded. Mark, I know you're upset, but it happened and you have to move on. Robert consoled, Emily has paid for her behavior and it's time for you to let go of this past. Put it down? How easy is that? Mark let out a bitter laugh. You know, Robert, I recently learned something about Jake. Oh, what is it? Robert asked curiously. I've heard that Jake has a bad reputation in the art world, that he often uses his position and charisma to deceive women, and Emily isn't the first victim. Mark said. That asshole. Robert said indignantly. People like that deserve to be punished. That's right. A cold glint flashed in Mark's eyes. Robert, I'd like to ask you to do me a favor. What favor? You tell me. Robert said. I want you to help me gather some evidence on Jake, especially evidence that he cheats on women and manipulates the art market. Mark said, I'm going to make him lose his reputation and make him pay for his behavior. Robert looked at Mark's determined eyes and knew he had made up his mind. As a friend, he decided to support Mark's decision. Okay, Mark, I'll try to help you. Robert said, but promise me you won't do anything illegal. Don't worry, Robert. I'm not going to mess around. Mark said, I just want to use legal means to get Jake what he deserves. Over the next few weeks, Robert used his contacts and resources to start secretly investigating Jake. He contacted a number of women who had been involved with Jake and gathered evidence from them that Jake had cheated on their relationships and toyed with women. At the same time, he also investigates Jake's gallery operations and discovers some clues about Jake's use of unscrupulous means to manipulate the art market. Robert compiled the evidence gathered into a detailed report and gave it to Mark. Mark, these are the evidence I've gathered so far about Jake. Robert said, it's not enough to put him in jail, but it's enough to discredit him in the art world. Mark's eyes grew cold as he flipped through the report in his hands. He knew that his plan for revenge had officially begun. Robert, thank you. You did me a big favor. Mark said, we're friends, say thank you or not. Robert patted Mark on the shoulder. What are you going to do next? I'm going to make Jake and Emily lose everything in the areas they care about most. Mark said, I'm going to give them a taste of what it's like to be reviled. What do you want to do? Robert asked. I'm going to have a painting show, a special one. Mark said, a shrewd gleam in his eye and the fire of vengeance burning in his heart. He knew that this special exhibition would be the beginning of a nightmare for Emily and Jake. Mark stood at the window overlooking the familiar city, but his heart was filled with unfamiliar emotions. Once, this was the place where he and Emily wove their dreams together, and now the city has witnessed his pain and loss and is about to witness his plans for revenge. A special exhibition of paintings, Mark murmured, a complicated glint in his eye. He knew it would be a war without smoke, an art trial against Jake and Emily. He's going to use the things they care about most, art and fame, to destroy them. Over the next few weeks, Mark got his act together. He utilized his contacts in the architectural and art circles and began to lay out his plans in secret. First, he contacted a young curator named David. David is young and passionate, but has never been able to make a name for himself in the art world. Mark proposed a collaboration to David. He would fund David's curation of an art exhibition on the theme of truth and provide him with all the necessary support. David, I believe in your talent, and this exhibition will be a great opportunity for you to show your strength. Mark said, I hope you can expose some of the hypocrisy and darkness in the art world through this exhibition and let the public see the real art. David was impressed by Mark's sincerity and the concept of the exhibition, and he agreed to work together without hesitation. Mark, thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to give it my all, David said excitedly. Next, Mark began his search for the right artist. He contacted a number of young, talented, but not yet established artists, told them about his project, and invited them to participate in the Truth exhibition. I hope you can use your works to express your true feelings about art and life, and not be bound by worldly fame and fortune. Mark said to these young artists, I believe that real art can touch people's hearts and provoke them to think. These young artists were so impressed by Mark's enthusiasm and ideas that they expressed their willingness to join the program. They began to create various forms of artworks, including paintings, sculptures, installations, etc. The themes of their works centered around exposing hypocrisy, criticizing reality, and searching for the truth. The themes of their works centered around exposing hypocrisy, criticizing reality, and finding the truth. In the meantime, Mark has started to keep an eye on Emily. He learns that Emily is preparing a small exhibition of her paintings and hopes to use the opportunity to return to the public eye. Mark gave a laugh, knowing that this was a crucial step in his plan. He anonymously contacted several art media outlets, suggesting that there was shady dealings behind Emily's show and directing them to investigate Emily and Jake's relationship. Mark knows the power of the media, and he's going to let the pressure of public opinion be the catalyst for his revenge plan. Emily, haven't you always craved attention? Then let me help you out. Mark muttered to himself, a cold glint in his eyes. While preparing for the Truth exhibition, Mark also began to contact some influential critics in the art world. He subtly reveals to them some negative information about Jake, such as that he manipulates art prices and cheats collectors. You know, I've heard Jake's gallery has been having some trouble lately. Mark pretended to tell a veteran critic named Steven at an art reception. Oh? What kind of trouble? Stephen asked curiously. I've heard that some of his dealings aren't too clean, like they involve some, how to say, less than honorable things. Mark said, lowering his voice. Really? That's really big news. A glint flashed in Stephen's eyes. Mark knew that Stephen would spread the word. In the art world, the power of public opinion is immense, and a single negative news story is enough to ruin a person's reputation. Everything is going according to Mark's plan. Like a patient hunter, he waited quietly for the perfect moment. Emily, meanwhile, is still immersed in her art world, oblivious to the impending storm. She spends her days in the studio with her head in her hands, hoping to regain recognition through the exhibition. She contacted Jake for support and help, but Jake's attitude grew colder and colder. Jake, my exhibition is opening next month. Can you help me contact some media and critics? Emily pleaded over the phone. Emily, I'm busy right now. You can figure these things out on your own. Jake said impatiently. But Emily was about to say something, but Jake had already hung up. Emily felt a sense of loss and helplessness as she wondered why Jake had suddenly become so cold. Unbeknownst to her, she has become a pawn in Mark's plan for revenge. As the date of the exhibition drew near, Emily's anxiety grew stronger. She began to hear some gossip about her and Jake, and some of the artists she had been on good terms with began to alienate her. Emily, have you heard any rumors about you and Jake? An artist friend named Sophia asked over the phone. What rumors? Emily's mind reeled. I've heard. Forget it. I'd rather not talk about it. You take care of yourself. Sophia wanted to say something. Emily's mind was filled with doubt and anxiety. She didn't know what she had done wrong and why she had been targeted. She tried to contact Jake, but he never gave her a clear answer. That's when Emily received an anonymous envelope. She opened the envelope and inside was a note that read, "Be careful, Jake. He's not who you think he is." Emily's heart sank, and she felt as if she were caught in the middle of a vast conspiracy. She didn't know who had sent her the letter or what its purpose was, but she knew that she had to be careful because she had become a target for someone else's revenge. Mark was standing at the Truth exhibition, looking at the powerful and critical works of art, with a smile of satisfaction on his lips. He knows that his plan for revenge is halfway there, and next, he'll witness firsthand how Jake and Emily struggle and perish in the storm of public opinion. He lit a cigar and took a deep drag, as if enjoying this coming feast of revenge. With the opening of the Truth art exhibition, a silent smoke filled the New York art scene. Mark's carefully planned exhibition was like a bombshell, stirring up huge waves in a calm lake. The exhibition was held in an influential gallery in New York's Soho district, which has long been a gathering place for avant-garde art and pioneering ideas. On the opening day, a large number of art lovers, critics, media reporters, and collectors flocked to get a glimpse of this much-anticipated art feast. Inside the exhibition hall, the young artist's works are diverse in style and novel in form, full of criticism of reality and exploration of truth. Some works expose the hypocrisy and pomposity of the art circle with sharp strokes. Some satirize the injustice and darkness of society with metaphors, and some explore the complexity and contradictions of human nature from a unique perspective. In the center of the gallery, several of Emily's masterpieces are skillfully arranged in a separate space. These works, which would have been the pride of Emily's artistic career, are harsh and ironic in light of the theme of truth. Especially in the work titled Lost, the woman's confused and uneasy eyes in the picture seem to be a true reflection of Emily's current state of mind. Visitors stopped, gazed, pondered, and whispered at Emily's work. Sources in the know began to offhandedly reveal scandalous stories about Emily and Jake, linking the paintings to reality and sparking endless rumors and speculation. Have you heard? The author of this Lost is the one who has been making a lot of noise lately, said a visitor to his companion, lowering his voice. You mean that gallery owner Jake's? My companion picks up the conversation knowingly and scans the area with his afterglow. Shoo, keep your voice down. But I heard, there's a bigger melon behind this. Similar conversations resounded from all corners of the showroom, and the seeds of public opinion, once planted, took root at an alarming rate. Mark blended in with the crowd and watched it all with cold eyes. He sees Emily's face grow pale, her eyes filled with unease and fear. He sees Jake trying to distance himself from Emily, but unable to completely shake it off. And he sees the friends and partners who once surrounded them now casting strange glances. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the Truth-themed art exhibition. Curator David's voice rang out in the exhibition hall, drawing people's attention to the stage. For this exhibition, we have brought together a group of outstanding young artists who have used their works to express their true feelings about art and life. I believe that their works can trigger everyone's thinking and can bring us closer to the truth. David's impassioned speech was met with applause. Off stage, Mark's mouth was tinted with an imperceptible smile. He knew that the art trial had just begun. Over the next few days, the Truth exhibition became the hottest topic on the New York art scene. Major media outlets are clamoring for coverage, and critics have written articles that provide in-depth interpretations of the works and themes of the exhibition. And Emily and Jake scandal has become the talk of the town. Some artists and collectors who were originally close to them began to publicly disassociate themselves from them, so as not to jeopardize their reputations. "I've always said Jake is unreliable," said an artist named Michael in a media interview. An artist named Michael said in a media interview, "He always uses his position and charm to deceive women. Emily is just one of his many prey." Emily's work? I have no comment. A veteran critic named Lisa said of Emily in a cold tone, "Being an artist starts with being honest, both about your art and about your feelings." Faced with the pressure of public opinion and the rejection of the art world, Emily felt unprecedented despair and loneliness. She tries to contact Jake in hopes that he will come forward and set the record straight, but Jake consistently avoids her. "Jake, why don't you answer my calls? Do you really want to do this to me?" Emily cried in a phone message. "We used to love each other so much. Have you forgotten?" However, Jake did not respond. He knew that the most important thing now was to preserve himself. He began secretly contacting some media outlets, trying to put all the blame on Emily and portray himself as an innocent victim. "I'll admit, Emily and I were in a relationship at one point, but I didn't realize she wasn't divorced," Jake said in an interview with a gossip magazine. "I was attracted to her beauty and talent, but I didn't realize she was such a scheming woman. She took advantage of my feelings for her and cheated on me and everyone else." Jake's comments immediately sparked more controversy when they were published. Some people began to sympathize with Jake, believing that he was duped by Emily, while others believe that Jake is shirking his responsibility and that his actions are even more despicable. The maelstrom of public opinion swirled ever wider, wrapping both Emily and Jake in it and making it impossible for them to get out. Mark had been following developments closely and knew that it was time for the next move. He contacted the private investigator he had initially worked with, a detective named Stan, to further investigate the finances of Jake's gallery and other suspicious activity. After a period of intensive investigation, Stan discovers that Jake's gallery has serious financial problems and is involved in a number of illegal transactions. It turns out Jake's gallery has a long history of laundering money by misrepresenting transaction prices. "Mark, here's what you asked for. This Jake is really something. He's made a lot of dark money deals through the gallery over the years." Stan handed the thick information to Mark. "Great, Stan, thanks a lot. Here's an extra for you." Mark produced another envelope containing a sum of money in addition to the pre-promised payment. "Mark, Stan grimaced. "You deserve it, take it. I have one more thing I need from you." Mark interrupted Stan. "Go ahead, I'll do my best," Stan said as he accepted the envelope. "Help me get this information anonymously to the tax authorities and the FBI, and arrange for a couple of media outlets to cover the story." Mark said, "Leave it to me." Mark knew that this would be the final straw that broke Jake's back. He's going to make Jake not only discredited in the art world, but he's going to bring him to justice. With Mark's arrangement, the tax department and the FBI become involved in the investigation of Jake's gallery. Meanwhile, several heavyweight media outlets have begun to report in depth on Jake's illegal dealings. Well-known gallery owner Jake suspected of laundering millions of dollars. Jake's gallery is shady and the unspoken rules of the art world are exposed. Once an art mogul, now a prisoner, Jake's fall from grace. Headlines and major media outlets have been dominated by Jake's scandal, and public opinion is in an uproar. Faced with investigations by the tax authorities, the FBI, and media exposure, Jake was in a desperate situation. His gallery was seized, his assets frozen, and he himself was taken away by the police for investigation. And Emily, while not directly involved in Jake's illicit dealings, is implicated as Jake's lover. Her reputation was completely destroyed, and no gallery would ever show her work again, nor would any collector want to buy her paintings. Once art couple, now both fell from the altar, became the object of ridicule and contempt. Mark, a witness to all of this, did not feel a trace of vengeance in his heart. He felt a deep sadness and emptiness, knowing that there was no real victor in this revenge. Emily was sitting alone in an empty studio, facing the painting called Lost. The woman in the painting is still wandering through the forest in a daze, as if she can never find her way out. "Mark, you won," Emily murmured, tears sliding silently down her face. "You won the game and I lost everything." She picked up a paintbrush, dipped it in black paint, and drew a big cross in the picture of Lost. It's as if you want to cut yourself off from the past completely. At this moment, she finally realized that the real loss was not where she was, but the loss of herself. And the bitter consequences of this betrayal will stay with her for the rest of her life. The hustle and bustle of New York never seems to stop, but after the earthquake in the art world, things have subtly returned to a certain calm. It's just that the trajectory of some people's lives has been irreversibly altered. Emily left New York for a small town in the south of France called Grasse. It was known for its perfume manufacturing and was also a place where artists gathered. She sold her studio in New York and some of her personal belongings, and chose a place far away from the hustle and bustle to try to find inner peace and redemption. There, under the alias Eve, she rented a modest studio and picked up her brushes again. Without the constraints of fame and fortune, and without the pressure of public opinion, Emily began to try to observe the world and feel life from a new perspective. Her painting style has gradually changed, no longer pursuing flashy techniques and complex compositions, but focusing more on emotional expression and inner exploration. She goes to the nearby fields and mountains every day to sketch and capture those fleeting moments of beauty. She paints lavender swaying in the sun, wet stone paths after rain, farmers working in the fields, and devout believers in churches. Her paintings are full of love for life and reverence for nature, and also exude a light sadness and relief. Emily sent her work to a number of small galleries and began to get some exhibition opportunities. Though without the hustle and bustle of the big city, she found her true self in tranquility. She is no longer the Emily lost in fame and fortune, but an Eve who has rediscovered the true meaning of art. Meanwhile, Jake has completely disappeared from the public eye after a stint in jail. The gallery empire he had worked so hard to build collapsed, and he went from being a glamorous art mogul to a disgraced street rat. After his release, he sold all his remaining assets and went to an unknown destination. Some say he went to South America, others say he went to Southeast Asia, but no matter where he is, he can't get rid of the sins he committed in the past, and he can't escape the condemnation of his conscience. And Mark, after weathering this storm of revenge, is gradually returning to a quiet life. He went on to run his own architectural practice and achieve even greater success in the industry. But he never remarried, and he devoted more of his time and energy to artistic philanthropy. He established an arts foundation in Emily's name that specializes in funding young artists who have talent but lack opportunities. In this way, he hopes to make up for what he once owed to Emily and to help more people realize their artistic dreams. Mark occasionally thinks of Emily and the sweetness and pain they once felt. He doesn't know how Emily is doing now, but he's sure she's out there somewhere, continuing her artistic journey. A few years later, Mark was invited to an architectural forum in France. Between meetings, he traveled alone to the town of Grasse. He strolled through the streets of the town, taking in the peaceful and beautiful atmosphere of the place. By chance, he entered a small gallery called Iris. The walls of the gallery are filled with paintings in a variety of styles, one of which, Redemption, caught Mark's eye. This painting depicts a woman standing in a field of golden wheat, her back lonely and determined, but her front is filled with hopeful sunlight. The brushstrokes are delicate and warm. The colors are soft and bright, revealing a sense of calm and relief after the vicissitudes of life. Mark gazed longingly at the painting, an inexplicable sense of familiarity welling up in his heart. It was as if he saw Emily's shadow, her dedication to art and her love of life. "Who painted this picture?" Mark asked the gallery staff. "It's a female artist named Eve." The staff member replied, "She's a new resident here, very talented, and this is the second painting she's sold at our gallery this month." "Eve," Mark muttered, a ripple going through his mind. He asks for Eve's address and then goes to her studio alone. It was a cottage located on the outskirts of the town, surrounded by all kinds of flowers and plants, and it looked peaceful and nice. Mark stood in the doorway and hesitated for a moment before knocking on the door. The door opens, and a familiar figure appears in front of Mark. Despite some changes in her appearance, Mark recognized her immediately. "Emily," Mark said softly, a hint of a tremor in his voice. Emily looked at Mark in front of her and froze as well. She didn't expect to meet him again in this distant town. "Mark?" Emily's eyes flashed with surprise, but quickly regained their composure. The two of them looked at each other without words, and only the sound of the breeze blowing through the flowers echoed in the air. "Are you okay?" Mark took the lead in breaking the silence. "I'm fine," Emily smiled. "How about you?" "I'm good too," Mark said. "I saw your painting, Redemption, and it was a great piece of work." "Thanks." A hint of tenderness came into Emily's eyes. "That's my most recent work, and it's a kind of goodbye to my past." "Are you called Eve now?" Mark asked. "Yes," Emily nodded. "I wanted to start a new life and a new beginning for my art." "I'm happy for you," Mark said sincerely. The two talked about their lives, their art, and their past. They didn't mention the painful past or the silent revenge again. The sun was setting and the afterglow was spilling over the town. Mark and Emily stood in front of the cottage, quietly enjoying the beautiful view. "Emily," Mark said suddenly, "I'm sorry for everything I've ever done." "It's in the past, Mark." Emily said, "I was at fault too. I shouldn't have betrayed you. I shouldn't have hurt you." "Let bygones be bygones," Mark said. "I wish you happiness in the future." "You too, Mark," Emily said. The two of them smiled at each other, and it was all in the air. Mark didn't end up staying in Gross for long, and after saying goodbye to the town, he went back to New York on his own. And Emily, or Eve, stayed on in this quiet town, continuing her artistic path. They both know that once something is lost, it can never be regained. But they also understand that life must always move on, and no matter how painful the past is, they must learn to let go, and learn to reconcile with themselves. Years later, Mark saw a painting called Hope by a French-Chinese woman named Eve at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. He knew that Emily, or rather Eve, had finally accomplished her redemption and found her own artistic path on the other side of the world. And he, himself, has finally come out of that haze to embrace the hopeful future that belongs to him. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.